Welcome to the Growth Room. Today we're exploring one of the most profound and life-changing books ever written, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl. In this audiobook summary, you'll discover how one man's experiences during humanity's darkest moments revealed timeless truths about purpose, resilience, freedom, and what gives life meaning. Have you ever found yourself lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering what the point of it all is? Perhaps you're facing an overwhelming setback in your career, a painful fracture in a relationship, or just a heavy, persistent feeling of burnout and emptiness. In our modern world, we are constantly told that the ultimate goal of life is to pursue happiness, stack up achievements, or accumulate wealth. Yet, so many of us achieve those things only to find ourselves stranded in an existential vacuum, a deep, hollow sense of inner meaninglessness. This is exactly why Viktor Frankl's insights are more vital today than ever before. Frankl wasn't just a philosopher writing from the comfort of an ivory tower. He was a brilliant Austrian psychiatrist and neurologist living in Vienna when World War II broke out. He had a comfortable life, a thriving practice, and a deep understanding of human psychology. But as a Jewish man in Nazi-controlled territory, his world was violently shattered. He was arrested and spent 3 grueling years moving between 4 different concentration camps, including the infamous Auschwitz. He lost his parents, his brother, and his pregnant wife. Almost everything that defined his identity, his manuscript, his status, his freedom, his family, was stripped away in an instant. Yet, surrounded by unfathomable tragedy, starvation, and disease, Frankl did something extraordinary. He became an observer of the human condition under the most extreme conditions imaginable. He noticed a fascinating and vital pattern among the prisoners. Those who survived weren't necessarily the physically strongest or the most intelligent. Instead, the individuals who managed to wake up each morning and find the strength to keep going were those who possessed a deep, unshakable sense of purpose. They had a reason to survive, why that allowed them to bear almost anyhow. From these dark depths, Frankl validated his groundbreaking psychological framework known as Logotherapy, a form of purpose-centered psychology. While other famous psychologists of his era argued that humans are driven primarily by a quest for pleasure or a desire for power, Frankl proved that our deepest, most fundamental motivation is actually the will to meaning, the innate human drive to find purpose in our existence. Let us journey into the psychological landscape of those camps to understand exactly how the human mind copes with sudden, catastrophic loss. Frankl observed that when people are thrust into extreme trauma, their psychology transitions through 3 distinct phases. The first phase is characterized by absolute shock. Imagine arriving at a destination under the worst possible circumstances, entirely unaware of whether you will live to see the next hour. For Frankl and his fellow prisoners, this initial shock was accompanied by a strange psychological phenomenon known as the delusion of reprieve. This is a defense mechanism where the human mind desperately clings to the illusion that things won't actually be as bad as they seem. Up until the very last second, prisoners would look for signs that they might be spared, hoping against hope for a miracle. But as the brutal reality settles in, the delusion evaporates, replaced by a cold, numbing horror. Everything familiar is gone. In Frankl's case, he tried to hide a scientific manuscript, his life's work, inside his coat, hoping to preserve it. When the guards discovered it and threw it away, he realized that his past life had been completely erased. He was no longer Dr. Viktor Frankl, the respected psychiatrist. He was reduced to a mere number tattooed onto his skin. This total stripping away of illusions forces the mind into the second phase, a state of deep apathy and emotional adaptation. Under normal circumstances, if you saw someone being treated with cruelty or experiencing intense physical pain, you would react with immediate horror, distress, and active sympathy. But in the daily environment of a concentration camp, where suffering is constant and unyielding, the human mind builds a protective shell. Apathy becomes an essential emotional survival mechanism. Frankl described how prisoners quickly became desensitized to sights that would normally cause severe psychological trauma. This emotional numbness wasn't a sign of callousness. It was a necessary adaptation. When your physical body is pushed to the absolute brink by starvation, freezing temperatures, and exhausting labor, your mind withdraws inward to conserve energy. It shuts down non-essential emotional responses simply to keep your core spirit alive. It is within this state of heavy apathy that the true battle for survival takes place. Frankl noted that when a person loses their emotional responsiveness, they stand at a critical crossroads. They can either let their environment completely dictate their internal state, or they can tap into a hidden reservoir of inner strength. In our modern lives, we rarely face conditions as extreme as a concentration camp, but we absolutely experience our own versions of shock and adaptation. When a sudden crisis hits, whether it's an unexpected job loss, the sudden end of a long-term relationship, or a severe health diagnosis, our initial reaction is often shock, denial, and a desperate hope that it's all a mistake. We look for a reprieve. When the reality sinks in, we can easily slip into our own form of modern apathy. We feel burnout, we disconnect from our loved ones, we scroll mindlessly through social media to numb our minds, and we begin to feel like passive victims of our circumstances. What Frankl teaches us through the psychology of the camps is that while our immediate emotional reactions are instinctive, how we adapt in the long run is a choice. Even when your external world is entirely stripped of comfort, safety, and dignity, there remains a sacred, untouchable space inside your mind. The guards could control Frankl's physical body. They could force him to work in the freezing snow, and they could take away his food, but they could not force him to think a certain way. They could not steal his inner freedom. This brings us to one of the most pivotal realizations of Frankl's life and the bedrock of his philosophy: the concept of inner freedom and human dignity. Frankl observed that even in the midst of total deprivation, some prisoners walked through the huts, comforting others and giving away their last pieces of bread. These individuals may have been few in number, but their existence proved a monumental point. Everything can be taken from a person but one thing: the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. This internal freedom is what allows us to maintain our human dignity. When we realize that our environment does not have absolute power over who we become, we stop viewing ourselves as helpless products of our environment or genetics. We realize that we are the authors of our own internal responses. This profound psychological shift is what kept the flame of hope alive in those who survived. And it is the exact framework we need to navigate the complexities, anxieties, and uncertainties of our lives today. Building directly upon that profound truth that we always retain the ultimate freedom to choose our attitude. Let us explore how this inner freedom transforms from an abstract concept into a practical lifeline. Frankl observed that the moment a person loses faith in their future, they are doomed. In the camps, the loss of hope was a literal death sentence. When a prisoner could no longer see any future goal, any meaning to their survival, they would give up. They would refuse to get up, refuse to work, and simply lie still, immune to threats or blows. Within days, their physical immunity would collapse and they would pass away. Frankl realized that to survive, a person must have a why, a future goal to look forward to. For him, that future goal was twofold. He desperately wanted to see his wife again, and he wanted to rewrite the scientific manuscript that had been destroyed. He would frequently visualize himself standing behind a well-lit podium in a warm, comfortable lecture hall, speaking to an attentive audience about the psychological lessons he was learning in the camps. By projecting himself into the future, he lifted himself above the misery of the present moment. This brings us to the core of Frankl's psychological revolution, logotherapy. Derived from the Greek word logos, which translates to meaning, logotherapy is built on the belief that human beings are fundamentally driven by a search for purpose. This stood in sharp contrast to the dominant psychological theories of his time. Sigmund Freud had argued that humans are primarily driven by the pleasure principle, the pursuit of comfort and the avoidance of pain. Alfred Adler later argued that we are driven by a will to power, the desire for status, control, and superiority. Frankl turned these ideas on their head. He argued that the pursuit of pleasure and power are actually distractions or coping mechanisms that people turn to only when they lack a deeper sense of purpose. When a person's life is empty of meaning, they try to fill that void with material wealth, temporary pleasures, social status, or constant entertainment. But these things are like drinking salt water. They never truly quench the thirst. True fulfillment comes only when we fulfill our will to meaning. Unlike traditional psychoanalysis, which often focuses heavily on looking backward into a patient's past, analyzing childhood traumas, and dissecting subconscious desires, logotherapy looks forward. It is a future-oriented, action-based approach. It doesn't view human beings as mere biological machines entirely determined by their past environments or genetics. Instead, logotherapy views us as active decision-makers who have the power to shape our own destinies through the choices we make today. Frankl emphasizes that meaning is not something we invent out of thin air. It is something we discover in the world around us. It exists objectively, waiting for us to respond to it. Furthermore, meaning is completely unique to every individual and can change from hour to hour, day to day. There is no single, abstract, universal meaning of life that applies to everyone at all times. Asking for the general meaning of life is like asking a grandmaster chess player, what is the best move in the world? The best move depends entirely on the specific situation on the board and the unique personality of your opponent. Therefore, you should never ask what the meaning of life is in a vague, philosophical way. Instead, you must realize that you are the one being questioned. Life is constantly asking you a question through your current circumstances, and you must answer through your actions, your responsibilities, and your attitude. To help us navigate this daily search, Frankl outlines 3 distinct paths through which we can discover genuine meaning in our lives. The first path is the most intuitive, through creating a work or doing a deed. This is the meaning found in accomplishment, creativity, and contribution. It is the joy of building a business, writing a book, coding an application, painting a canvas, raising a child, or dedicating your energy to a project that improves your community. When you pour your skills and passion into creating something of value, you create an anchor of purpose that grounds your life. The second path to discovering meaning is through experiencing something or encountering someone. This is the meaning found in love, nature, art, and relationships. When you immerse yourself in the breathtaking beauty of a mountain sunrise, listen to a masterpiece of music, or experience a deep, authentic connection with another human being, life validates itself. In these moments of profound appreciation, you don't need a complex philosophical justification for existence. The experience itself is enough. Frankl highlights love as perhaps the highest, ultimate truth that human beings can attain. He describes how, while marching through the freezing mud under the whips of guards, he began talking to his wife in his mind. He didn't even know if she was still alive, and tragically, she wasn't. But he realized that love transcends the physical person of the beloved. It finds its deepest meaning in our spiritual inner selves. Love allows us to see the unique, essential core of another person, including their hidden potential, and helps them actualize that potential. But what happens when your ability to create is stripped away and you're separated from the people you love? What happens when you are faced with unavoidable, irreversible suffering, such as a terminal illness, the permanent loss of a loved one, or a catastrophic failure? This is where the third path comes in, and it is the absolute pinnacle of Frankl's philosophy. Finding meaning through the attitude we take toward unavoidable suffering. Frankl is very clear about one thing. Suffering is not strictly necessary to find meaning. If a cause of suffering can be removed, whether it's an abusive relationship, a toxic job, or a preventable illness, The only meaningful and responsible thing to do is to remove it. To suffer unnecessarily is masochism, not heroism. But when suffering is absolutely unavoidable, when you cannot change the situation, you are presented with the ultimate human challenge: to change yourself. Think about how this applies to modern challenges like extreme anxiety, deep depression, or sudden personal loss. When you're hit by a crisis that you cannot undo, society often tells you to put on a brave face, stay positive, or try to escape the pain. But logotherapy teaches us to meet the pain face to face. It tells us that even in the most restricted, agonizing circumstances, you still hold the steering wheel of your inner soul. You can choose to bear your sorrow with dignity, transforming a personal tragedy into a triumph of human endurance. By choosing to face adversity with courage, you set an unspoken example for everyone around you. You prove that human potential can rise above external limitations. This framework completely redefines how we view our struggles. Pain ceases to be a pointless cruelty inflicted by the universe. Instead, it becomes a canvas upon which we can paint our highest values and prove our inner strength. Now, let us examine the brilliant psychological principle that underpins this entire philosophy of choice. Decades after Frankl's writing, researchers and philosophers condensed his wisdom into a single, immortal phrase: between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Think deeply about this concept. In our fast-paced, highly reactive digital world, we often live as if there's no space at all. A negative comment on social media, a rude email from a coworker, an unexpected market crash, or an argument with a partner acts as an immediate stimulus. Instantly, we react with anger, defensiveness, anxiety, or despair. We allow external triggers to pull our emotional strings as if we were mere puppets. Frankl's core message is an invitation to step back and reclaim that vital space. The stimulus is what happens to you. It is completely outside your control. The response is how you act, what you think, and who you choose to be in the face of that event. By deliberately widening the space between the trigger and your reaction, you take back your power. You transition from being a passive victim of your environment to a conscious director of your life. This leads us to a fundamental pillar of logotherapy: personal responsibility. Frankl boldly argued that freedom is only half of the equation. Freedom without responsibility is completely empty. It easily degenerates into mere arbitrariness. In fact, he famously suggested that the Statue of Liberty on the East Coast of the United States should be supplemented by a Statue of Responsibility on the West Coast. True freedom isn't just freedom from restrictions. It is the freedom to respond to life's demands. We're not here to ask what we can demand from life. Instead, we must understand that life is demanding something from us every single day. Every situation you find yourself in is an assignment waiting to be completed, a puzzle waiting to be solved, or a duty waiting to be fulfilled. When you embrace total responsibility for your choices, your attitude, and your actions, you unlock an unshakable form of mental endurance. To truly understand how this mental endurance works, look at how Frankl redefines the relationship between suffering and human growth. In modern psychology and self-improvement circles, there is a heavy emphasis on achieving a state of constant comfort, emotional balance, and equilibrium. We are often told that tension is a negative thing that should be avoided at all costs. If we feel anxious, stressed, or conflicted, we assume something is fundamentally wrong with us. Logotherapy completely rejects this idea. Frankl asserted that a certain amount of inner tension is not a mental illness. It is an absolute prerequisite for mental health. The human mind does not need a state of frictionless rest. What it actually needs is the healthy tension that comes from striving and struggling for a worthwhile goal, a purpose that is freely chosen. Consider a bridge. If a bridge is structurally weak and carrying no weight, engineers don't leave it completely empty to protect it. Instead, they often increase the load or weight placed upon it, which forces the arches together and makes the entire structure more stable. Human beings operate the exact same way. When we are burdened by a noble mission, when we have a duty to fulfill or a loved one to take care of, our psychological structure solidifies. We become stronger, more resilient, and more cohesive under pressure. This concept provides an incredibly powerful antidote to modern existential challenges like burnout, depression, and anxiety. Often, what we call burnout is not a result of doing too much work. It is a result of doing too much work that has absolutely no meaning to us. When you're pouring your life force into activities that feel hollow, even the smallest task becomes a massive, exhausting weight. Conversely, when you are fueled by a deep sense of purpose, you can endure immense physical and mental strain without breaking. Your pain is entirely transformed when it is tied to a purpose. Let us dive deeper into the profound role of love as a primary source of meaning. Frankl emphasized that love is the only way to truly understand another human being in the absolute core of their personality. In our contemporary culture, love is often portrayed as a temporary chemical reaction, an intense emotional feeling, or a transactional arrangement based on mutual benefit. We focus heavily on what we can get from a relationship: validation, security, companionship, or pleasure. But Frankl's view of love is infinitely deeper and more compassionate. True love is a spiritual act. It means seeing the unique essence of another person, recognizing their flaws, and fully embracing their unfulfilled potential. When you love someone in this way, you enable them to see their own worth. You hold up a mirror that reflects not just who they are today, but who they are capable of becoming. This authentic human connection rescues us from isolation and inserts a profound, undeniable meaning into our daily existence. Through compassion and service to others, we naturally transcend our own narrow self-interests. Frankl discovered that human fulfillment is always an indirect byproduct of forgetting oneself. He called this the self-transcendence of human existence. The more you target happiness directly, the more you miss it. Happiness cannot be pursued. It must ensue. It occurs naturally as an unintended side effect of dedicating yourself to a cause greater than yourself, or committing yourself to the well-being of another person. When you stop obsessing over your own emotional comfort and instead ask, how can I serve? Who can I help? What problem can I solve for the world? Your own psychological wounds begin to heal. By looking outward and taking responsibility for a piece of the world, you automatically cultivate the deep internal ground needed for resilience, hope, and lasting joy to flourish. This brings us face to face with the defining psychological crisis of our modern era: the existential vacuum. Frankl coined this term to describe that widespread, hollow feeling of total emptiness, aimlessness, and meaninglessness that so many people suffer from today. To understand why this happens, look at how the structure of human life has evolved over time. For thousands of years, mankind was guided securely by two powerful guardrails. First, our basic animal instincts told us exactly what we had to do to survive. Second, deeply rooted social traditions, religious structures, and cultural dogmas told us exactly what we ought to do to be a proper member of society. In the modern age, both of these guardrails have largely dissolved. We no longer live purely by primal instinct, and rapid cultural shifts have broken down old traditions. As a result, human beings are left with a terrifying amount of absolute freedom, but without a clear map on how to use it. When an individual doesn't know what they want to do, or what they should do, they easily fall victim to two major psychological traps. The first trap is conformism, doing exactly what everyone else is doing simply because they are doing it. The second trap is totalitarianism, doing exactly what an authority figure tells them to do, surrendering their personal thinking entirely. Look around at our digital world today. Social media comparison acts as an absolute breeding ground for conformism. We open our phones and are instantly blasted with images of what a successful life supposedly looks like. luxury travel, flawless aesthetics, fast money, and effortless happiness. Without realizing it, we begin running on an endless treadmill, chasing goals that aren't even ours. We strive for a career because it sounds prestigious, buy things we don't need to impress people we don't like, and curate a perfect online identity. Yet when the screen turns off and the noise fades, that heavy sense of existential uncertainty creeps right back in. We experience an overwhelming wave of anxiety and depression, and we misdiagnose it as a lack of achievement. We think, if I just get that next promotion, that next raise, or that next milestone, I'll finally feel whole. But this is a massive trap. You cannot heal a lack of purpose with an abundance of pleasure or possessions. Frankl noticed that when people suffer from an existential vacuum, they attempt to fill the void with various substitutes. He observed that the will to meaning is frequently replaced by a frantic will to pleasure or a desperate will to power. This explains why modern societies experience such high rates of addiction, consumerism, and obsession with status or control. When your life lacks a true mission, you overindulge in temporary dopamine hits like binge-watching, excessive eating, substance abuse, or toxic internet arguments just to feel something. Anything other than the terrifying emptiness inside. Logotherapy provides a powerful, practical framework to break free from this vacuum. The pursuit of purpose is not an elite luxury reserved for philosophers. It is an urgent daily necessity for every single one of us. To find your unique life mission, you must change the question you ask yourself when you wake up. Instead of asking, "What do I want from this day?" you must ask, "What does this day demand of me?" Let us translate Frankl's timeless framework into highly practical modern applications for different areas of life. Consider students who are completely overwhelmed by intense academic pressure and existential dread about the future. It is incredibly easy to lose your drive when you view studying as a meaningless series of exams and grades. But if you shift your perspective and realize that acquiring knowledge is an act of preparation to serve the world later, the entire experience changes. Your education ceases to be a tedious chore and becomes a meaningful mission to equip yourself for future contributions. Think about career challenges and entrepreneurship. If you view your job or your business solely as a mechanism to collect a paycheck, you are highly susceptible to severe burnout. The moment setbacks happen, a failed product launch, a critical review, or a missed promotion, your entire motivation collapses. But if you anchor your work in a spirit of service, asking how your skills can solve a genuine problem for your customers or your team, your resilience skyrockets. Setbacks are no longer personal insults. They're simply tactical puzzles you need to solve to fulfill your mission. In our personal relationships, Frankl's insights urge us to move away from transactional, selfish love. When we view a partner as a tool to cure our own loneliness or validate our worth, the relationship is fragile and destined for conflict. True resilience in a relationship occurs when two individuals join hands to pursue a shared meaning outside of themselves. Whether that is building a healthy family, supporting each other's distinct personal growth, or contributing together to a greater cause. Ultimately, navigating personal setbacks, deep failure, and tragic loss requires an unshakable belief in human dignity and potential. When a crisis strikes, it is natural to grieve and feel intense pain. But logotherapy reminds us that your story does not end with the tragedy. The final chapter of your story is written by how you choose to carry that burden, how you rebuild from the ashes, and how you use your experience to help others who are walking down that same dark path. To help you integrate these profound lessons into your daily life, let us explore the core logotherapy framework through practical exercises you can start using today. This isn't just theory. It's an actionable mental training system designed to anchor your mind against existential uncertainty. The daily purpose practice. 1. The evening reflection questions. Before you go to sleep, instead of scrolling through social media and comparing your life to a curated feed, take 3 minutes to ask yourself 2 simple questions. Where did I experience a moment of genuine connection or beauty today? This trains your mind to recognize meaning through the path of experience and love. What duty or responsibility did I fulfill today, no matter how small? This reinforces the path of creation and action. 2. Purpose journaling. When you face a major personal setback, a career failure, or an overwhelming wave of anxiety, open a journal and draw a line down the center of the page. On the left side, write down the stimulus, the raw, unvarnished facts of the situation that you cannot change. On the right side, write down your chosen response, the attitude you choose to take, the actions you can still control, and how you can use this pain to grow. This simple exercise actively widens the space between stimulus and response, restoring your personal freedom. 3. Service-oriented thinking. Whenever you feel caught in the trap of burnout or depression, consciously shift your focus outward. Ask yourself, who in my immediate circle, a friend, a family member, a coworker, is struggling right now? And how can I ease their burden? By practicing self-transcendence, you forget your own ego, and happiness naturally ensues as a byproduct. Final summary in the meaning framework. As we conclude this profound journey through Viktor Frankl's timeless masterpiece, let us recap the complete framework for living a life of unshakable resilience and deep fulfillment. The greatest mistake people make in their search for happiness is chasing it directly. Happiness is a shadow. The more you run after it, the faster it flies away. True fulfillment is not the absence of tension, nor is it the accumulation of wealth, status, or superficial pleasure. True fulfillment is a byproduct of a life lived with responsibility, anchored by a unique mission, and dedicated to something greater than oneself. Always remember the 3 paths to discovering meaning. By what we give to the world through our creations, our work, our projects, and our deeds. By what we take from the world through our deep relationships, our love for others, and our appreciation of art and nature. By the stand we take when we are faced with unavoidable suffering, transforming personal tragedy into an ultimate triumph of human endurance. No matter how dark your current circumstances may seem, no matter how much has been stripped away from you by life's unexpected storms, you always retain the last of the human freedoms. Your right to choose your attitude and choose your own way. Thank you so much for listening to this complete audiobook summary. If these lessons resonated with you, if they sparked a light of hope or gave you a new perspective on your own struggles, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below sharing the biggest insight you're taking away today. Your engagement helps this vital message reach the people who need to hear it most. Welcome home to the Growth Room. This channel is entirely dedicated to sharing the world's most powerful books on psychology, resilience, purpose, success, mindset, and personal growth. Our goal is to provide you with the deep mental tools and practical blueprints you need to master your mind, conquer your setbacks, and build a life of genuine significance. As you step back into your day, carry Viktor Frankl's ultimate message close to your heart. You are not a passive victim of your environment. You are the author of your internal world. Life is not waiting to hand you a predefined meaning. Life is looking at you, right now, asking what meaning you will bring to it. Rise to the challenge. Embrace your responsibility. Choose your attitude with courage and keep growing. We will see you in the next episode inside the Growth Room.